gonna change. Does this make sense? And so getting folk to agree with you isn't enough. But in order for change to happen, something has to first change in your head. It's called your mind. Your mind has to change. When your mind changes, everything else will follow. Is that all right? Is this making sense? And so here's the problem with your mind changing. It takes a lot to change your mind. And what I have come to understand is that in order to change some people's minds, what it takes is you're getting tired of being sick and tired. Okay, y'all see, let me come over here because I think these songs are... In order to change your mind, what it takes is being tired of being sick and tired of sometimes being sick and tired. It's at that point that your mind begins to change and the things around you begin to transform. So in other words, if you don't change your mind, nothing else changes. Is this making sense? Okay, it's like hit you, man. Some of y'all not catching this, so let me make this thing as clear as possible. Rosa Parks got tired of being sick and tired of sitting in the back of the bus. And she made up her mind. And something changed. Okay. Muhammad Ali got tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired of being forced to join the Vietnam War to go kill people that had done nothing to him. And so he changed his mind. Okay. Let me bring this thing back up a little bit. Colin Kaepernick got tired of being sick and tired of seeing unarmed black men and women being killed in the street. And so he changed his what? All right. Okay, so yeah, I still got a few folk with me here. In 1982, a lady by the name of Betty Davis got tired of being sick and tired. And see, here's what happens. When you get tired of being sick and tired, here's what happened. If you're a believer, let me go to church real quick. If you're a believer, you start saying stuff like, no weapon formed against me shall. Yeah, it's only if you're a believer. You're a believer, you start saying stuff like, stuff like that. I can do all things through, stuff like that. Well, in 1982, when Betty Davis got tired of being sick and tired, she said, I am going to do something that no one else in my culture has done before me, and nothing will stop me. When you change your mind, other things will follow. Is this making sense? Is this making sense? And so I did some research, and one of the things I found out was that in 2005, there were some situations going on in Anchorage, Alaska, talking about the graduation rate. The research that I found said the graduation rate in 2005 was 59%. Did that need to change?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it needed to change. But again, just agreeing that it needed to change is not enough. In order to change the situation, somebody, and I don't know exactly who it was, y'all can tell me, but somebody said that we got to change our minds. We got to be tired of being sick and tired of seeing our young people go to school and get a subpar education and not get out or not graduate and not go on to do things that we require them to do. And so, what was it? 90 by 2020? Right. Yeah, oh yeah. 90% by 2020, and as of 2019, y'all had reached 84% 4-year graduation rate. That's a 25-point gain. Is this making sense? Yeah, that's what you want to see, the kind of change that you want to see. But see, I'm not here to talk about celebrating the past.
Hello.
I'm here to also suggest that we are not done just because we have seen a 25% increase. And here's why I know. Because yesterday, I spent time walking down the street, y'all. All right? And I was walking down the street, and I was meeting people, and I was shaking hands with people, and I was talking to people, and I ran into some young folk who were walking down the street. Now, I don't know their backstory, but here's what I do know. That we still have in Anchorage some challenges and some things that need to change. And I don't know where you are on the spectrum. I don't know where you are with the particular situation. But here's my deal. You are not done until we at 100%. You're not done until we also look at what happens post-graduation. We're not done until we see families move from poverty out of poverty. Is this making sense? We're not done until generations after generations are blessed because someone becomes the first person to graduate from college and go on and get a degree and be gainfully employed. It's not enough to suggest that the joblessness rate is low. It's not enough when you got one person having 2 and 3 jobs and working and being underemployed. Just because they got a job doesn't mean that they can take care of their household and their bills. So don't stop just because we've had some success. You have to continue to ask your question. Ask the question, is there some more progress that needs to be made? And here's the challenge with that. That requires us to ask some difficult questions. That requires us to have some difficult conversations. But here's the most important thing, and I know this is not good English back here. I got educators in here. Y'all don't charge me, all right? But here's my deal. When looking at the situations that we face in our communities and the things that need to change, we cannot continue to do the same things over and over again and expect a different result. If there are some things in our communities that need to be changed and we are continuing to do the same thing over again and confused as to why things are not changing, then here's my deal. If it ain't broke, break it. I'm saying that it's time to stop trying to force an 8-track. Yes. Hello, somebody. It is time to do some things differently. And so I want to talk a little bit about this from the perspective of some things that we did. I think we're going to blow past. Let's keep going. We're going to blow past. I'm going to stop right here. Oh, I'm sorry. Right there. Okay. All right. Here's what I found out. I became the pastor of a church called the Christ Missionary Baptist Church in Indianapolis, Indiana, back in 2015. When I literally, the first weekend after I accepted the pastorate of this church, I had a funeral that weekend. And after I had done the funeral, it just so happened that the gentleman that I had funeralized, he supervised a crew of individuals who cleaned up the downtown of Indianapolis. If you know anything about Indianapolis, it's called Circle City. And that means that the city has at its very center Monument Circle. And it's in a circle, and the whole city kind of grows out from there. Well, the person that was in charge of making sure that the circle of Circle City was clean was the gentleman that I funeralized. And so that was on a Saturday. So on Sunday, when I'm headed to church, I'm driving to church. I had to go a unique route because of the Indianapolis 500. Some of y'all know about that. It's the greatest spectacle in sport racing, and the city gets locked down. So I had to drive a unique route to try to get to church to bypass the traffic. And so I end up driving right past this man's house. And as I'm driving past the house, I'm noticing trash everywhere. And I'm like, to me, I was thinking this is an abomination to who this man was. This man spent his life's work making sure that our city was clean. And then when he dies, the area around his own house is a mess. And I said, this is not going to work. And I had just became the pastor church, and I had on a black suit, must have been first Sunday. And so I went up into the church. Some of y'all get them. So I went on up in the church. I grabbed the trash bag. I went outside. They were doing Sunday school in the church. The folk were doing Sunday school in the church. I grabbed the trash bag. I went outside and started to pick up trash. I said, I can't have this. This is just not going to work for me. Right? I was so emotional about it. I didn't think about gloves. I didn't think about nothing. I just went out and just started picking up trash. That's nasty, Pastor. But that's what I did. And so as I began to pick up trash, another gentleman from my church saw me. He was driving by. He stopped. He starts helping me pick up trash. We're picking up trash going down the street. People start coming out of their house. They start picking up trash. And before you knew it, we had gotten all the way down to this man's house. And we had picked up so much trash that the bag that we had filled was too heavy to take back down to the church. And so a gentleman from the street was driving his red Camaro. He pulls up. He says, Pastor, just put the trash on my hood and I'll drive it down to the church. Here's what I said. I said, well, take the trash, put it on the hood, drive it down to the church, take it off the hood, take it into the church, and take it to the altar. Wow. And my sermon changed that day. My sermon changed because I realized at that moment that our calling was not inside the building. Our calling was outside the building. Is this making sense? I had to be as concerned as the people that walk into the school as I had to also be concerned about those who walk past the school or the church. Y'all hear me? I'm just contextualizing, right? And so we took the trash to the altar, and my message changed. And so here's what's my message. My message was, if we are going to make an impact on the people out there, we got to know what's in them. We got to know what they are consuming. We got to know what they're watching, what they're reading, what they're doing, what they're saying, where they're going. And I said, guess where that is? In the trash. I said, the more we know about what's in the trash, the more we know about what's in them. Is this making sense? Some of y'all going to tie this together in a bow in a second. Here it is. The problem is, don't nobody want to go through the trash. But we started going through the trash. And I remember the next week, somebody took a gun and put it and shot a bullet through their head right down the street from the church. I went down, and the people, as I was going down, the people saying, they were saying, who are you? I said, I'm Pastor G. Oh, so you pastor? What church you pastor? I pastor Christ Missionary. Where is that? You see that big 3-story building right there? They had come to know my church as a funeral home and not a church. Y'all don't hear what I'm saying? Y'all don't, a place where people don't go to graduate. They go to, okay, let me calm down. And so I had work to do. And so this is what began a cycle for me of where we had to start asking the question, how do we make the work that we do relevant? Yes. Are y'all catching this? Yes. Now, understand, it wasn't my education, it wasn't my degrees that got me here. But I got to a place where I recognized something was wrong. And here was my big answer. We have to change what we've been doing. We have to be a church that intentionally leaves the building. We were breaking what was not broken. Is this making sense? Yeah. We were making a decision that what we've been doing, driving to church, driving into the city, rolling up our windows, turning our radio up, and ignoring the dreams, the aspirations, the hopes, the families, the children, ignoring them as we drove in, doing what we did, getting back in our cars, rolling the windows back up, turning the music back up, and driving out had to change. And I'm hoping I'm challenging somebody. I hope. Go ahead to the next slide. And so here's what we did. What we did was we said, look, we need to hit the ground. Now, mind y'all, I accepted the pastorate on March 29, 2015. That year, homicides in Indianapolis were soaring. All right. And what had happened was, this is not about your education. I'm really trying to drive this home. You have to be led to where I was. You have to be led. You have to be led. I don't care who you are in here. You have to be led to this calling. And so for some reason, people started asking me to come to funerals and comment and speak and talk and whatnot. Not sure why, but we had in St. Louis, what was it? The gentleman that was murdered in St. Louis back in 2013, Mike Brown. They were celebrating maybe the first or second anniversary of his unfortunate killing. And that was kind of front page. Maybe 2 pages back, there was a story about, I think, a 7-year-old who was in her house doing her homework on her bed in the same city. And if I remember correctly, they said that someone drove past and shot bullets into the house and killed this 7-year-old who was in her house doing her homework, laying on the bed. And here I'm saying, what should be on the front page? It's not a celebration about Mike Brown. It is, what are we going to do about what just happened to the 7-year-old? And then when I looked right outside my doors, I had a young man by the name of Jalen Johnson, 16-year-old, shot 17 times, left for dead in a garage, that was asked to go to this funeral. I go to the funeral, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. And that's when I had to respond to the call on my life to do something that no one else had ever done. Are y'all hearing me? Yes. Now, I was laying in the bed, and I said, okay, Lord, you want me to do something. Hopefully some of y'all are there now. You see something needs to change. You see a gap that needs to be filled. You see a trend that needs to be reversed. You see some disparities that need to be dealt with. And you're laying in your bed and you're saying, okay, what am I called to do? Yes. Is this making sense? Mm-hmm. All right. And I thought that I was supposed to get a whole bunch of people together, get a megaphone, get some hearses or something, and go drive down the street and stop the traffic and get people to rally. And what I heard was, no, a still small voice. If anything is going to change, you are going to have to be the sacrifice. And I said, well, what does that look like? I'm not getting ready to go put a cross. I'm not going to go put a cross up and crucify myself at Circle Center Mall. And here's what came out. What we ended up doing was, you see that tent right there? Yes. We ended up looking for the most violent area of the city in order to pitch a tent so that we can listen to the people in the communities that were most affected by the challenges that we were facing. Is this making sense? And so we pulled out a map. And we started looking, mind you, I hadn't been a pastor of that church 6 months yet. We pulled out a map and we were looking for the most violent area. They had 7 hot spots. And guess where the most violent one was? Your church? Right where my church was. Oh my goodness. And so we went and we found the corner. And it just so happened that one of the most traveled corners in our neighborhood, our community, which was MLK and 30th Street. We went out there and it just so happened that we owned the property on the corner. So we were able to put the tent right there where we went out for 30 days, slept in the tent, and okay, I'm done with the slides. Over 1,500 people from all over the state of Indiana and outside the state of Indiana actually came through to share their dreams and their aspirations and their goals and whatnot. I would sit down with young people, and as a matter of fact, if you get a chance to go out and grab one of my magazines, there's information in there about, we recorded all these podcasts of these young people who was coming to me, and I asked them, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? One guy says, I want to be a nurse. Right? Now, understand, to the rest of the community, he did not look like somebody that would want to be a nurse. But this young man had a dream. And my job was to make sure that he was able to reach his dream. But the key to that was for me to first acknowledge that everything that was going on around me was my response to this call. Is this making sense? All right. Now, I don't know what it is for you, but here's some things that I've learned about Anchorage. That Anchorage has an opioid crisis. Am I missing it? Anchorage also has a problem with homelessness. Right? Y'all got some people sleeping on the streets. And here's the bigger challenge. The bigger challenge is that I'm finding that Anchorage, those that are outside, the age is getting younger and younger and younger. Yes. Is that impacting our school system? Yes. Certainly. Is this making sense? I'm also finding out that there is a disparity between the services for mental health, right, and those who need it. Meaning that we have inadequate resources to help those who need it the most, which leads to a recidivism problem. That means people are getting out of jail and going right back in. As a matter of fact, I'm finding that the issues that many of us have here in Anchorage, sometimes within an hour of a call to police to go deal with a situation, they have to ignore that one because the one around the corner is more serious. Any of this sound familiar? Yes. Do we have work to do in Anchorage? Yes. Now, here's the deal. I would argue that we don't have an opioid problem. I would argue we don't have a recidivism problem. I would argue we don't have an education problem. I would argue that we don't have an infant mortality problem. I would argue we don't have a homelessness problem. I would argue, you know what we have? We have a leadership problem. Yeah. All right. Yes. Is this making sense? Because if we had leaders who were willing to serve the people and not serve themselves, all right, then those leaders, if they're educated, if they're resourced, if they're supported, if they're engaged, if they're communicating, if they're talking to the people that they're called to serve and not parachuting solutions into those communities as if we know what they need without talking to them. If we had servant leaders who were prepared to go and to deal with those issues, we wouldn't have those issues. Is this making sense? Yeah. So this is why the call is so important. Because everyone in here who's listening to me now, there is a call on your life. And your vocation and your call may not match. Yes. In other words, where you clock in and what you really, that's why your LinkedIn profile don't match. Yes. People go on LinkedIn, they read up on you on LinkedIn, and you work down at the factory, and they look on LinkedIn, you're an author on LinkedIn. Because what you really want to do is on LinkedIn, but what you clock in is how you make your money. Because here's my deal. It doesn't matter what your vocation is. You must get in touch with your calling because we need it. Anchorage needs your calling. And here's why you need a calling. You need a calling because if you don't have a calling, you will run out of steam. You will run out of patience. You will throw in the towel. You will give up. You will throw up your hands. And here's why I talk about urban servant leadership. Y'all know what servant leadership is. We hear about servant leadership all the time. Urban servant leadership ain't the same, y'all. Because when you are serving in under-resourced communities, you're liable to get spit on by the very people you're serving. Yes. Will that empty your tank? Will that empty your tank? Will that make you tired? Will that make you cynical? Will that make you decide when I go home, I'm not going back out there? Those folk don't care. And what we're really dealing with is trauma. And so my calling gave me actions, gave me purpose, gave me inspiration, and then established a commitment in everyone who was involved in the work we're doing. You can go ahead to the next slide. That's the first. Second factor, building relationships. If you want to make a difference and want to make impact, you must build relationships. And I don't just mean build relationships with people that look like you. Here's what I'm saying. I had a church that was predominantly African-American. Problem. Oh, y'all hear me? Do I need to go any further? No. Now, y'all speak over 100 languages up in here. If you can't lean over to somebody and be like, you know what, let's do some diversity and inclusion right through here. Right. All right? One of the things that I'm going to get out of being here is that it is a blessing, the diversity that you all have. And never, what I'm saying probably means absolutely nothing, but never let anyone take that blessing away from Anchorage, Alaska. Because I'm telling you, the lower 48 struggles with this. Everyone wants to be put into a box, and then there are people that want to be put on top, and I'm going to leave that alone. Let me just keep moving. So we had to commit to leave the church building and get to know people of the community and on the streets. Y'all see that? And on the streets, right? I had to share the icons of traditional pastors, such as clergy collars, lofty language, judgmentalism, piety, fear of differences, and shaming disposition. Does this make sense? Right? Now, normally, y'all see me with this tie on and stuff, but normally, y'all, this is not me, okay? So y'all don't get dismayed by this, because I'll take this off in a hot second. Matter of fact, I'm more comfortable like this, all right? This ain't me. That's me. Y'all following? I had to walk out into the streets and get to know. I had to hug on people that were stinky. Do we have any young people walking into school who smell like they ain't had a bath? And somebody's afraid to go up to them and talk to them and hug on them and love on them, even though they haven't combed their hair, they haven't had their hair washed? Is this making sense? People that walk up to them and judge them, not knowing that the reason why they don't have a pencil is because they don't really got a mama. The reason why they're not prepared is because nobody prepared breakfast. We got to shed that stuff. You got to let that stuff go. People can't see you as walking judgment, walking at them with your hand extended like you really care when they know you really don't. I had to let it go. I had to change. I had to transform right in front of my community in order for some folk, because they sat back like this, like some of y'all are sitting there right now, sat back like this and said, prove to me that you deserve my attention. You ever had that in class? When you walk into the class and you got a student that's sitting there like, prove to me that I should listen to you. Right? I was going to say that, but since you mentioned it. In church? Oh yeah, I dealt with that all the time. Right? And part of dealing with that is I have to change. I literally watch as I walk the streets, I hug people, I prayed for people, I picked up trash, and I even hung out in the alleys, y'all. While my church was in there doing Bible study. While they were in there doing Sunday school, I put on a helmet, got on a bike, and rode into the alley. And there were more people that came to see me to pray in the alley than that came to the altar in the church. Is this making sense? That's because I changed. I broke the mold. Is this making sense? No, you can move. All right, number 3, lead by example. I didn't ask others to go and do what I wasn't willing to go and do first. As a matter of fact, I had to leave some people behind. I had to walk out and do some stuff, even though there were people that were naysayers. There were people that was asking questions. What makes him think he can? He's trying to be they were telling me that I was trying to be a big-time pastor or something like that, which being a pastor had nothing to do with it. Serving the people is what it was about. Is this making sense? So I had to turn the volume down on the people who were questioning what made me think I was smart enough or that I was bold enough to do the thing. I had to turn that off. Right? I had to turn the volume down. I stayed up later. I walked farther. I dug deeper. I gave. I invested more. Basically, I knew that I couldn't ask anybody else to sacrifice anything unless I was committed to be the sacrifice myself. Is this rough? And I'm not telling nobody to go pitch no tents. All right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in your respective area of expertise with whatever it is that you're doing, there is a calling in there. And in order for you to make change, you've got to decide, I'm not going to ask my executive assistant, my administrative assistant, I'm not going to ask the people down the street and around the corner. If I want to see change, I have to go first. I have to lead by my example. Is this making sense? All right, next. Fact number 4, build around a vision. After making positive inroads with the community, we were motivated to do something in response to rest. So enough is enough was the theme of the tent campaign in 2015. Once we shared the vision, we built capacity quickly for me to spend 30 days. So literally, we had less than 30 days to get everyone ready for me to actually go out and sleep on the street. We had to get permits. We had to get IMPD, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. We had to get them on board. We had helicopters flying over. We had decoy cars. We had all kind of stuff that had to come together just for me to sleep in a tent on the street in one of the most violent areas of the city. Now, I want y'all to know I didn't really realize how dangerous that was until I was done. All right, you can go to the next one. All right, I'm trying to get through this. All right. So you see, we pull people together. You can go through, just keep going through. Factor number 5, we involve the community. Plans and strategies for community engagement must involve the community. Y'all hear a thread of that running through everything I'm saying. And praise God, on y'all's website for the education department here, it shows that you all are doing work. You got a plan going on right now that ends in 2020 that involves the community. Keep that up. Keep that up. Never diminish the voices of the community and the people who are directly affected by what it is that you do, right? Y'all know that. People have to know that they are seen, heard, and considered in their own path towards success. All activities are designed to maintain the dignity of community members, and we didn't hand out as much as we attempted to give people a handout. You can go to the next one. I'm trying to hurry now. Factor 6, we stayed focused. Now, in our community, I don't know about you, but in our community, we had a lot of challenges. Y'all see this? All of this happened in 2015, 2016, 2000. The banks were closing, stores were closing, homicides were rising, police action shootings were happening, and we had crazy local politics that was going on. And yet we still had to remain focused on our goal. Here's why. Because we have microphones and writers from newspapers that would come to us all the time trying to divide us. They were coming to me trying to get one comment from me, and then going to someone else and trying to get an opposing comment from them. All in the effort to keep us at odds. And so, and to give you a good example, there was a gentleman who runs an organization called the 10-Point Coalition in Indianapolis. It's very controversial. They get a lot of grant money, but a lot of people didn't care for the 10-Point Coalition, even though it was a pastor of a church right around the corner from my church. So what they would do is they would come to me and ask me, well, what do you think about what the 10-Point Coalition is doing? And so what I had to do is that everything I said had to be had to be French. I love everybody. I love everything. Look, what they're doing is great. I applaud them. Now, I'm not going to do what they do, and they're not going to do what I do, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to tear down what they're doing. If they want to put caskets on the corner, if they want to put food trucks out, you do your part, you do your part, I do my part, and all parts come together as the body, and it all works together for the good. Does that make sense? And so if you're going to do anything in the community, make sure that you ensure that you stay focused, even though you've got things falling apart all the way around you. The Bible says there will be days like this, right? Some of y'all know that I had to deal with a quadruple homicide 2 weeks ago, right? Ages 19 to 21. all execution style. Had to do a eulogy, a double eulogy last week, right? We're going to have days like that. But that should not change our focus. We can't give up on the future because we're stuck with the tragedies of the past. All right, let's keep moving. I'm sorry. Factor seven. Oh, okay, I got 3 minutes. So these are some of the things that we were responding to. Homicides, keep going. Okay, factor 7. Share your own story. Now, I've talked to some other folk about this, and that's why when you go out, you'll see our publication, because what we do is that we tell our own stories about what goes on in our community. We don't let the Indy Star tell the story or NPR tell the story for us. We tell our own stories. So we write our own stories. I wrote my own blog. I published our own magazine. Okay. And that the reason why is because we need people in our community to hear their own voices about what's going on. We need to find success stories and tell those stories. If y'all do know the way the media works, it says if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so when the news comes up, first thing you see is cherries, right? And blueberries, right? That's the first thing you see. Another shooting, another homicide, right? Another killing, another stabbing. Well, what we had to do was turn the tables and begin to tell the great stories and the great successes that were happening in our community. The people that were graduating, the people that were going to college, the people that were getting good jobs, the people that were succeeding in our community. But you don't get there unless you tell your own narrative. And so that's why we worked hard for that. And that's what you see here. All right, factor number 8, let partnerships develop. We did not rush into relationship building. We let relationship building work itself out. Part of that is because of me. My thing is that I'm not a fan of resources before relationship. Yeah. I'm not a fan of somebody coming up to me wanting my resources, but they don't want a relationship with me, right? So I let while somebody's rushing, I'm patient. Let that thing marinate, right? Seek relationship first, resources last. Y'all hear me? Go back. Yeah. Challenge partners to meet the community where they are and not the other way around. Ooh, that was hard. I'm in a tent, y'all, on the street in one of the most violent areas of the city. There was some folk that was afraid to come see me. But here's my deal. If you care about this community, you're going to come to this community and talk about this community. Does this make sense? I'm not coming to the 25th floor. And I challenged the 25th floor, which is where the mayor's office was in Indianapolis. And I said, if you want to talk about change, you better come here and talk about the people that need the change and not think that we're going to always come to you. I would sit in meetings, y'all. I'm trying to hurry up. I would sit in meetings, y'all, and folk didn't understand that I wasn't getting paid to be there. They were getting paid to talk to me. I wasn't getting paid to talk to them. So I would tell them, hurry up. Right? I can't run to the bathroom and get paid. You can. Right? We got to hurry up. See, so we have to challenge those folk in those offices to say, look, if you care about this community and you care about infant mortality and you care about disparities and you care about health issues and you care about mental health, then come down here and look at the people who are being most impacted by the policies that you create. If you care. That's all I'm saying. Okay, go into the next one. I only got 2 more left. And these are some of the great things that all the partnerships I said took time to do. That's all the partnerships, right? Y'all see all that great stuff? Well, isn't that awesome? The stuff that we did. Isn't that awesome? All right, factor number 9. We got organized. We leveraged our partnerships to focus on what we were able to bring to our community. We established We Care Network to better track. Okay, go to 10. Let me see. And I'm going to close out with this. And so this is how, no, go backwards. Okay. All right, here's the deal. Go back. Okay, here's the deal. We did a tent campaign in 2015. Over 1,500 people came to the tent. That tent turned into everything. It was a food counter. It was a clothing shelter. It was a prayer closet. It was a counseling center. It was everything. Matter of fact, I had a guy who had stolen a car and brought the car up to the tent and said, I'm sorry. Left the car there and walked away. I had a mother whose son was off the chart. And she said, I didn't know what to do with him. I can't control him. All I knew was the tent. And so she brought her son up to the tent. And it just so happened that the chief of police was there at the time. And I sent her son in with the chief of police. And he was able to work through some issues with her son and send him back home. I had another young man who was on the street screaming and hollering. And in Indianapolis, if he'd have screamed and hollered too much longer, he'd have been dead. And it just so happened that he was by the tent. And because he was by the tent, we grabbed that young man. We brought him into what we call the epicenter, which was this really jacked up, dirty place with rats and stuff. But that's where I was working at that time. And we brought him into the epicenter and we sat him down. I brought the chief of police in. He looked at the young man face to face. He saw trauma on his forehead. He could tell he had some issues. And what we found out, one of my church members comes up to me and says, "Baby, I know who that is." I said, "Well, who is he?" She said, "That's so-and-so, and his mother and father is such and such, and he has mental health issues, and they're in charge of his medication. And by the way, they're alcoholics." Y'all see how that works? Right? And so we were able to put him in a police car, get him home, and make sure that he got his medication, because that's what his problem was. He wasn't angry. He wasn't mad. He just needed his meds. Is this making sense? And so because of that experience in 2015, in 2017, now go to the next slide. We, back. She really wants me to stop. And I know, but I'm going to do this. Go back, stop. Right there. In 2017, God called us to the street again. But this time, I challenged other people. I said, we're going to go to the streets, but this time, I'm not going by myself. Y'all gonna go with me. And that's where you start seeing people come together and help build out the epicenter, right? Now you can go to the next ones, right? And you see this? Then we started bringing in mothers who were pregnant and had never been to a prenatal visit. Is this making sense? Go to the next one. Then we had the grocery store I told y'all to close. So we set up a partnership with the food bank, and they started bringing food in, and we started offering fresh fruits and vegetables to the people in the community, because I said, I'm not going by myself this time. Y'all going with me. All right, go to the next one. Right? Then, you see this guy, Dr. David Boyd. He's a neonatologist from IU Health there in Indianapolis. Now, he and I developed a relationship that took 2 years before we got to the tent campaign. And one day we were sitting at Panera Bread. I said, I'm about to go out to the street. He says, it's interesting you're going out to the street because we've got a high concentration of mothers whose children are dying before the age of 2 in that community. He says, what would it look like if we brought information on safe sleep and infant mortality right into the epicenter? I said, that's a great idea. Come up out of that building, come up out of 25th floor and meet the need right where the need is. They brought the education and the classes right into the epicenter, and here's where the tears started falling. They started seeing mothers wobbling across the street from the epicenter. I had a lady who was sitting there in tears because her friend had just lost their baby, and all she could think was, what would have happened with her child had she had this information? Maybe her child would still be here. Is this making sense? A partnership that took 2 years to develop produced this. All right? Go to the next. Okay. She said, shut up, Pastor. I get it. All right. Here's the last thing, shared lessons, and I'm done. Shared lessons looks like this. Everything that we learn, we set up the Urban Servant Leadership Conference, and we turned around and we said, we don't know everything. We're going to share with you what we know. We're going to share with you what we've learned. And we're going to ask other people to work with us so that as we develop this concept of urban servant leadership, not only can we get better, but that our community gets better. Because remember, there's silos. We did not want to become our own silo and think that we had it all figured out and that everybody else got to pay to play. Is this making sense? And so we shared the information and everything that we learned. I would say that for the, 90-20-20, y'all need to share that. Destination 2020, y'all need to share that. Matter of fact, I want that in Indianapolis. Okay? Because whatever y'all doing to get them numbers up, it's working. But I'm also challenging you, don't stop there. Right? Because there are some children that are being benefited by that higher graduation rate who got some parents sitting at home that need their GED. And a high school equivalency. So we can't stop there. They graduated, but are they going to college? If they're going to college, are they graduating? If they graduate, are they getting not just getting jobs, right? We don't need master's degrees working for $15 an hour. Hello, somebody. We need people to be gainfully employed and able to support their families and able to build a career and a future so that they can then send their children to college and to school and to get good jobs and to lift everyone, because we can't keep leaving people in poverty. Right? So anyway, I think I'm out of time. Please go out and grab one of these, because nothing that I said does justice to what we did except what's in this publication is out there by the voting booth. Please grab one of these and support the work that we're doing.
Now, those are not free.
No, they're not.
Okay, so you can't just grab. You got to grab and pay. Thank you, Pastor G. That was very, very
Long.
It was long, but it was enlightening and right on point. And so I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, this is actually